The girl who was left behind in the middle of the galaxy. There was a huge space station called Virion Prime. It was full of lights, shops, and creatures from 100 worlds. People rushed through metal halls, talking in many languages no one noticed. The small girl sitting on the cold floor. Her eyes were red, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She was different. Her skin was a soft silver color, her eyes bright green, and her hair looked almost like light. She was young, maybe 12 years old in human years. Her name was Sari, and she was alone. People passed her without a second glance. Tall aliens with long necks, small robots carrying bags, insect-like merchants selling goods. None of them stopped. None of them cared. She hugged her knees and whispered, "Mom, where are you?" Hours ago, everything was normal. She and her mother were walking through the market, buying supplies. Then, without warning, black armored enforcers appeared. They pointed their weapons, shouted orders, and grabbed her mother. Sari screamed, but her mother looked at her and said just one thing: run and find a human. Now she had nothing. No home, no family, no one to help her. She didn't understand why her mother was taken. She didn't understand what she had done wrong. The world felt cold and big, and she felt smaller than ever. Then, everything changed. A human man was walking past, holding a small bag of tools. He wore a long black coat and had a small scar under one eye. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he saw her. And more importantly, he stopped. He knelt beside her, his voice calm and soft. "Hey there, are you okay?" Sari looked up, surprised. A human, just like her mother said. She didn't answer at first, just stared at him. No one should cry alone. He said again, offering her a small piece of bread. Her stomach growled, and her hands shook as she took it. "Name's Eli," he said, sitting beside her on the floor. "Captain Eli Walker, old ship pilot, not much else." She finally spoke, voice shaking. "They took my mother." Eli's face turned serious. "Who did?" he asked. "The enforcers." She replied, her voice trembling. "She told me to find a human before they grabbed her." Eli looked around the busy station. No one noticed them. No one cared. He sighed, knowing what it meant when the enforcers took someone. "You're not safe here," he said. "We need to get off this level." Sari didn't move. "I don't know who to trust," she whispered. Eli looked at her kindly. "Sometimes the only people left to trust are strangers." She stared into his eyes, searching for danger, but all she saw was tired kindness. And for the first time, a little bit of hope. Eli stood and reached out his hand. "You coming, kid?" Sari looked around one last time. At the crowds who ignored her, at the floor where her tears had fallen. Then she reached up and took his hand. They walked through the corridors together. Eli took hidden paths, quiet alleys where no cameras watched. Sari asked, "Why are you helping me?" Eli replied, "Because once someone helped me when I had nothing too." As they walked, Eli noticed something strange. Every time they passed a scanner, the screen glitched slightly. He had seen tech like that before. It was biological scrambling. He looked at Sari. "Curious kid," he asked. "What are you exactly?" She looked down, unsure if she should tell. "I don't know," she said quietly. "My mom said I'm different." Eli nodded, deep in thought. They reached a quiet maintenance room. He closed the door and started setting up a small scanner. "I'm not leaving you out there," he said. "But if the enforcers are after your mom, and she told you to find a human, something bigger is going on." Sari hugged herself and sat on a metal box. "My mom said she was working on something dangerous." Eli turned slowly. "What kind of something?" Sari looked him in the eye and said, "She said it could change everything." Before Eli could ask more, a loud beep came from his wrist communicator. A news alert. His face turned pale as he read the headline. "Wanted. Human male seen aiding alien fugitive. Reward, 100,000 credits." He looked at Sari, then at the door. It was already starting. They were being hunted, and the girl he found On the floor might be the key to saving or destroying the galaxy. Asterisk, the human questioned the galaxy was loud, crowded, and full of eyes. But at that moment, in the shadows of Virion Prime, only one question mattered. Why did her mother tell her to find a human? Captain Eli Walker didn't believe in luck, he believed in instincts, and right now, every instinct told him that helping the silver-skinned girl was the right thing. Still, the bounty alert on his wrist didn't lie. Helping her had put a target on his back, inside a dusty maintenance room, far below the station's main levels. Sari sat quietly. Her small hands gripped the edges of her jacket, her green eyes full of fear and confusion. Eli paced the floor like a man preparing for a storm, and maybe, in a way, he was. "You said your mom told you to find a human?" Eli asked. Trying to keep his voice calm, Sari nodded slowly. "She said only a human could be trusted," Eli raised an eyebrow. "That's not something I hear often." Sari looked up, confused. "Why?" she asked. He sat beside her on an old crate. "Because humans. We're not exactly loved out here," he said. "Most species see us as dangerous. Wild, unpredictable." He gave a small smile. "They're not always wrong." Sari was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "My mom was working on something." "Something powerful." Eli leaned forward. "What kind of powerful?" "She called it a mind key." Sari said. "She said it could unlock people's minds, make them think for themselves again." Eli froze. He had heard rumors, whispers of alien governments using mind control tech to keep people obedient, but no one ever dared to speak openly about it. To challenge it was suicide. "She said they'd never let her finish it," Sari continued. "So she hid it and hid me." Eli stood and rubbed his face. "This is worse than I thought." Suddenly, a soft knock echoed from the door. 3 short taps. A pause, then 2 more. Eli grabbed his sidearm and stepped forward. "It's me," a voice whispered from the other side. Eli relaxed slightly and opened the door, revealing a tall woman with blue hair and cybernetic eyes. "Nova," he said. "Thanks for coming." Nova stepped in and glanced at Sari. "She's the kid. She's the reason half the galaxy's looking for me," Eli said, forcing a smile. "Then she must be important," Nova replied. Closing the door behind her, Nova was a hacker, smuggler, and information broker. Someone who lived in the cracks of the galaxy. She knelt beside Sari and scanned her with a small handheld device. After a few beeps, her eyes widened. "There's something in her DNA," Nova said. "Encrypted code, something deep, layered like a locked vault." Sari pulled away, frightened. "It's okay," Nova said gently. "It's not hurting you, but it's hiding something big." Eli nodded. "Looks like her mother didn't just trust her with the key. She made her the key." Outside, alarms began to echo through the station. Voices on the loudspeakers called for lockdown. "All units, suspect identified, human male, traveling with a juvenile hybrid." Eli cursed under his breath. "They're tightening the net." Nova pulled up a map. "There's a maintenance exit 2 levels down, leads to an old supply shipyard. We can steal a ship." Eli said, "If we move fast." They packed quickly. Sari held tightly to Eli's hand, her small fingers shaking. "I'm scared," she whispered. Eli looked down at her, his face serious but kind. "Good," he said. "Fear means you're alive. Just don't let it stop you." As they ran through narrow halls and flickering tunnels, Eli remembered his own childhood, alone, hungry, scared, much like Sari now, but no one had come for him. No one had stopped to ask if he was okay. And that's what made the difference. That was the human question, not what someone could gain, but what they could give, even with nothing in return. They reached the lower level just as patrol bots rolled into the corridor above. Nova hacked the lock on the old shipyard gate. Sparks flying, the door opened with a groan, revealing rows of abandoned ships. "Pick one," Nova said. "Fast and quiet." They chose a small freighter, dusty but functional, as they powered it up. Eli turned to Sari. "Once we take off, there's no turning back," he said. "They'll chase us to the edges of the galaxy." Sari nodded. Then we keep running, she said. Her voice stronger than before. Eli smiled. Welcome to the fight, kid. As the ship rose from the ground, alarms blared louder, and security droids began firing, but it was too late. They were already in the sky, already disappearing into the stars, and deep inside Sari's blood, the mind key pulsed quietly, waiting for the right moment to wake up. Secrets of the hybrid. The stars outside the ship were silent, endless, and cold. But inside the stolen freighter, something warm was awakening. Not in the engines, not in the lights, but deep inside the girl sitting in the co-pilot seat. Sari closed her eyes, her breath steady but nervous. She could feel something moving, not in her body, but in her mind, a soft vibration, like a thought that wasn't hers, like a secret trying to speak. Ailey sat in the pilot's chair, one hand on the controls, the other resting on a worn photo. Stuck to the console, it was an old picture of his former crew, a reminder of better days. He glanced at Sari and noticed her expression. You okay? He asked. Sari nodded slowly. Something's strange, she said. It feels like I'm remembering something I never learned. Nova, sitting behind them, leaned forward. That's the data waking up, she said. The encrypted code inside you, Eli frowned. How does it even work? Nova tapped on her datapad. Your DNA has layers, she explained. Normal genes for your body, hybrid genes from both species. But beneath that, a code written in living cells. Sari looked confused, like a computer. Nova nodded. Exactly. Eli stared out the window at the stars. Your mom didn't just hide the weapon, he said. She *** made you the weapon. Sari's heart skipped. I don't want to hurt anyone, she whispered. You might not have a choice, Nova said softly. They're coming after you for a reason. Sari stood and walked to the back of the ship, needing air, needing space. She sat alone in the dark cargo bay, her hands pressed against the cold wall. And then it happened. A soft glow lit up around her fingers. Symbols, alien and human, started appearing across her skin like tattoos. Her eyes widened, and a voice echoed in her mind. Authorization detected. Unlocking sequence initiated. Back in the cockpit, lights flickered. The ship shook slightly. Eli jumped up. What was that? Nova's eyes widened as she looked. At her screen, the code. It's activating. They rushed to the cargo bay and saw Sari glowing with soft blue light. She looked up, tears in her eyes. I can hear voices, she said. They're not real, but they know things. Eli stepped forward. What are they saying? Sari swallowed hard. They're showing me a map. Nova quickly connected her scanner to Sari's skin. On the screen appeared a hidden space station, deep in an uncharted zone. It's not on any official records. Nova said, It's where they took my mom. Sari whispered. Eli nodded. Then that's where we're going. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the ship. Warning, the computer said. Incoming vessel detected. Eli ran back to the cockpit and looked at the radar. A large ship was closing in, weapons hot. Tracker drone, Nova said. They found us, Eli cursed. How? Nova checked the systems. Sari's activation must have sent a signal. Eli pulled the ship into a sharp turn. Laser blasts flew past them, lighting up the black sky. Sari held onto the wall, eyes closed, trying to calm the storm inside. Her mind, don't panic, Eli shouted. Nova, charge the jump drive. I need 30 seconds, she replied, typing fast. We've got 10. Eli muttered, swerving again. Another blast rocked the ship. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Then Sari stepped forward, her eyes glowing. She raised her hand toward the cockpit window. And suddenly, the enemy ship froze, its system stalling mid-attack. What did you do? Eli asked, shocked. I just thought it, Sari whispered. I wanted it to stop and it did. Nova stared in disbelief. She's not just the key, she said slowly. She's the *** interface. Eli pulled the lever, and the ship jumped into hyperspace. vanishing into the void. Inside the silence of the jump, no one spoke, not even the ship. Sari sat down slowly, her hands trembling. "I didn't know I could do that." Eli knelt beside her. "You saved us," he said. "But this power—" "It's not safe," Sari said. Nova agreed. "If the wrong people get to her, they could use her to control everything." Eli looked at the star map on the screen. It pointed to a distant place called Obsidian Reach, the place where Sari's mother was last seen, the place where answers waited, and maybe more danger than they could imagine. As the ship drifted through hyperspace, Eli made a quiet promise. "I don't care what she is," he said in his mind. "She's just a kid, and I'm not going to lose her." Outside, stars kept moving. But inside the ship, something ancient had awakened, something that could change the balance of power across the galaxy, and it lived inside a scared girl named Sari. Asterisk escaped through shadows. The ship floated in deep space, silent like a ghost. No stars outside, only blackness, endless and cold. But something even darker was following them. In the shadows of hyperspace, a second ship hid. It made no sound, no light, no signal. Its pilot didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't feel. It was not alive. It was a machine built to hunt, and it had locked onto one target, the girl who wasn't supposed to exist. Inside the freighter, Sari sat quietly, her eyes closed. Images flashed in her mind, her mother's voice, blueprints, codes. She could feel her thoughts moving faster now. Her memory wasn't just hers anymore. Nova watched from the corner, her fingers dancing across a holoscreen. "Her mind is syncing with the code," she said to Eli. "She's learning things faster than anyone should." Eli didn't answer. He just stared out the window. He didn't like being hunted, but what scared him more was what might happen if they caught her. Suddenly, a red light flashed on the console. "Tracking signal detected," the ship's voice warned. Eli stood up, his face tense. "They found us again." Nova checked the systems. "No radio waves, no scanners," she said. "They're following her energy." Sari opened her eyes. "It's not a normal ship," she whispered. "It feels wrong." Eli looked at her, confused. "You feel it?" Sari nodded slowly. "It's close." Without warning, the freighter shook violently. Something had slammed into the hull. The lights flickered. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Nova pulled up the external camera feed. A black ship, smooth as glass, latched onto their side. No markings, no crew, just metal and death. "They're boarding us," Nova said, pulling out her blaster. Eli grabbed his weapon too. He looked at Sari. "Hide." In the crawl space, Sari started to protest. "But no," he said firmly. "If they take you, everything's over." Sari nodded and crawled into a tight space beneath the engine room. She watched through a crack in the wall, her heart pounding. The airlock hissed open. Two figures stepped in, tall, armored, faces hidden behind glass masks. They moved like shadows, no sound, no emotion. Eli fired the first shot. It hit one in the chest, no effect. "They've got kinetic shields," Nova shouted. The second figure raised its arm and shot a pulse of blue energy. It hit Nova and threw her against the wall. "Nova!" Eli yelled. Diving behind a crate, he fired again. Aiming for the leg this time, the figure stumbled, just a bit. Then, from inside the crawl space, Sari whispered, "Stop," and the attackers froze, mid-step, mid-move, like statues. Nova groaned and sat up. What the hell was that? Eli looked at Sari, wide-eyed. "Did you do that?" Sari crawled out slowly, her hands glowing again. "I don't know how. I just didn't want them to move." Eli approached one of the frozen attackers. He lifted the mask and stepped back, shocked. There was no face inside. Just wires and lights. "These aren't soldiers," he whispered. "They're machines. Sent to bring her in," Nova added. "Or to kill her if they can't." Sari stood near them, shaking. "I didn't mean to freeze them." Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved us again," he said. "But we need to get out of here now." They pushed the dead machines back into their ship and sealed the airlock. Then Nova activated a hidden emergency drive. "It's unstable," she warned, "but it'll take us to Obsidian Reach." Eli nodded. "Anywhere's better than here." The freighter jumped again, vanishing into space, leaving behind only silence and two broken machines floating in the dark. Hours later, the crew sat together, tired and bruised. Eli stitched a cut on Nova's arm. Sari stared at her glowing hands. "I don't want to become a weapon," she said softly. "You're not a weapon," Eli replied. "You're a person, and I'll protect you like one." Nova sighed. "The deeper we go, the more dangerous it gets," she said. "Obsidian Reach isn't just a hiding place." Ele looked at her. "It's a battleground." Sari's voice was small but clear. "If my mom's there, I have to go." Eli nodded. "Then we go together." As the ship floated through hyperspace once more, the crew didn't speak much. They all felt it. Something was coming. Not just war, not just machines, but a truth buried deep in Sari's code. A truth that would either save the galaxy or destroy it. Betrayal in the Void Trust is the last thing that survives in space. Not oxygen, not metal, not light, trust, and when it breaks, it leaves a hole darker than a black hole. Captain Eli Walker knew this. He had lost friends, crewmates, and even his own brother to betrayal, but this time he was sure. This time he believed he had a team he could count on. Until now, the freighter entered the Obsidian Reach. A dead zone of space with broken moons, shattered satellites, and old war wreckage. Here, signals didn't travel. Here, the stars looked cold and bruised. Sari stared out the window, her mind full of noise. Ever since she froze the machine soldiers, her thoughts had been louder. She heard whispers, saw flashes. Some of them were memories, some were warnings, and some were not hers at all. "Is this where she is?" she asked softly. Nova nodded, her eyes scanning a fading map. "If she's alive, she's here." Eli piloted the ship toward a broken asteroid that had a hidden hangar inside. They landed in silence as they stepped out. The silence of the Reach wrapped around them. It was heavy, like the air had forgotten how to breathe. They walked through metal tunnels covered in dust and shadows. Lights flickered, walls hummed. This place was once a secret research lab. Now it was a grave. Then footsteps. Eli raised his weapon. Nova turned quickly. A voice echoed through the hall. Calm and cold. "Put the guns down. You're not here to fight." From the shadow stepped a man in dark armor. Helmet off, eyes sharp. Eli froze. His face turned pale. "Rowe," he whispered. Lieutenant Rowe, once Eli's squad mate. His brother in arms, now working for the other side. Sari stepped behind Eli. Feeling the danger in the air, Rowe smiled. "You brought the girl. I knew you would." Nova aimed her blaster. "What do you want?" "I want to help her," Rowe said, "but not the way you think." Eli took a step forward. "You were dead." "I got promoted instead," Rowe replied with a grin. "They offered me power, and I said yes." Sari's hand started to glow again. Eli whispered, "Stay calm." But it was too late. More soldiers appeared behind Rowe, weapons raised. "You walked right into the trap," Rowe said, his voice cold. "She's not a child. She's a weapon." Rowe snapped his fingers, and a pulse of energy hit the group. Eli and Nova dropped, stunned but alive. Sari collapsed to her knees, shaking. "She's coming with me," Rowe said, picking her up like a package. "I don't need her to like me, just to *** obey me." They left the lab, leaving Eli and Nova unconscious on the floor. Sari's last thought before darkness took her was one word: run. Hours later, Eli woke up, his head throbbing. Nova sat beside him, her lip bleeding, her face bruised. "They took her," she whispered. Eli sat up, rage burning in his chest. "I should have known," he said. "I trusted him once." Nova connected to the station's last working terminal. "She's still on this asteroid," she said. "There's a lower level, locked and hidden. That's where he took her." Eli loaded his weapon. We're getting her back, meanwhile. Deep below the surface, Sari was strapped to a chair. Surrounded by machines, Ro stood nearby, watching the codes flash across her skin. She doesn't even know what she carries, he said to a scientist beside him. It's not just a key. It's a map, a power source, and a control switch, the scientist nodded. If we unlock it, we can control every mind in the system. Sari opened her eyes, her voice weak but clear. My mom didn't build me for control. She built me to destroy it. Ro leaned closer. She built you to obey her. He whispered, now she's gone, and I decide what you become. But deep inside Sari's mind, a second voice answered, one that didn't belong to Ro, or her mother, her own. And it said, no one decides for me. As Eli and Nova prepared to storm the lower level, they didn't know that Sari was already changing, already breaking the chains from inside. And soon, the reach would not be silent anymore. It would roar, rise of the human. He floated in darkness. Not space, not time, just darkness. Captain Eli Walker's body was still, but his mind was burning, not from fear, but from failure. The last time he trusted someone, it cost him everything. This time, it cost him her, the girl with glowing hands, the one who called him safe. Now taken, used, trapped. Eli's eyes opened, and pain came rushing back. His ribs ached. His back was bruised. But he was alive, and being alive meant one thing. He still had time to fix it. Nova stood nearby, patching her arm with an old med kit. Her eyes were cold now, not just angry. She was done running. Ro has her in the core, she said, voice low. They're trying to break into her mind. Eli pushed himself up, his jaw clenched. Then let's break in before they do. Outside, the asteroid lab was waking up. Old defense systems, red lights, patrol bots, all under Ro's control. But inside, something else was waking too. Sari, she sat in a sealed chamber. Wires stuck to her skin, monitors flashing codes too fast to read. Ro paced nearby, shouting commands. Push harder. She's resisting. The technician shook his head. She's not just resisting, she's rewriting. Inside her mind, Sari saw memories, real and false. Her mother's voice, Eli's kindness, the machines that wanted her to be a weapon. And then she heard something new, her own voice, louder than all the rest. I am not a key, I am not a weapon, I am me. The wires sparked, machines shut down, screens went dark. Ro shouted, what's happening? The chamber glowed from the inside, bright and hot. She was waking up, not as a tool, but as herself. Meanwhile, Eli and Nova dropped into the lower levels using an old maintenance shaft. Security bots moved through the halls, but Nova's tech kept them blind. Eli carried only one weapon now, a short-range pulse rifle. Everything else he needed was inside him, anger, regret, and something deeper, a memory. He remembered the boy he used to be, alone on a mining colony. His parents lost to a system that didn't care. A stranger, a human soldier, had saved him once. Now it was his turn to be that stranger. They reached the blast doors, locked tight. Nova plugged into the side panel. Give me a minute, she said. You've got 30 seconds, Eli replied. Loading his rifle, inside, alarms blared. Ro pulled out his gun. Shut her down, he yelled. Can't, the technician screamed. She's in the system now. Sari opened her eyes, glowing white. The walls shook. Energy buzzed through the air. I remember everything, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. She looked straight at Ro. You betrayed my mother. Ro raised his weapon. I made you. I can unmake you. Then, the blast doors exploded. Smoke and light filled the room, and Eli stepped through. Not like a soldier, not like a hero, like a human. With nothing left to lose, he fired once, hitting Ro in the arm. Ro fell back, snarling in pain. Sari stood from her chair, the wires falling off her like broken chains. She walked toward Eli. Glowing, calm, unstoppable. You okay, kid? He asked. Sari nodded. I am now. Nova rushed in behind them. "Shields are failing," she shouted. "We have 2 minutes before this whole place goes offline." Rose stood again, blood on his face, hate in his eyes. "You don't understand," he said. "She's the future. She's not meant for freedom. She's meant for control." Sari raised her hand, and Ro froze in place. "No," she said softly. "I choose my future." And with a single thought, she shut down the systems around him. The lab dimmed, the machines died. They ran, fire behind them, metal walls collapsing. Alarms screaming. The asteroid began to crack from the inside, but they made it. The freighter lifted off just as the lab exploded behind them. In the silence of space, Sari sat beside Eli once more. Her face was calm, her hands steady. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. Eli smiled, a small, tired smile. "Good, because we're not done yet." Nova pointed at a new signal on the map. "A message was left in the lab," she said. "From her mother. It says, 'Finish what I started.'" Sari looked at Eli. "I think I know what to do now." And for the first time, she didn't feel like a prisoner of her powers. She felt like their master. The girl who changed everything, the first time anyone saw her. She was crying in a crowded station. The last time they saw her, the sky was burning behind her. And she was standing tall, Sari. The girl no one helped. The girl they tried to use. The girl who changed everything. The freighter glided through deep space. Quiet but focused. Eli sat in the pilot's chair, eyes tired but calm. Nova typed on her cracked datapad, tracking an old encrypted signal, and Sari stood still, eyes closed, hands glowing gently. Inside her mind was a map, left behind by her mother. A path to the final broadcast tower. A hidden station where minds were controlled. Thoughts shaped, freedom stolen. That's where it had to end. Not with a battle, but with a choice. "We're close," Nova said, pointing to a black, hollow moon on the screen. "That's the control node. If we take it down, their whole mind network falls." Eli nodded. "This time, no backup, no tricks," he said. "Just us." As they approached, defense systems activated. Lasers fired, drones launched. But this time, Sari didn't hide. She walked to the front of the ship, placed her hand on the glass and whispered, "Stop." The entire defense grid flickered, then died. The drones floated still like statues. Eli looked at her, amazed. "You didn't destroy them." "I gave them a choice," she said softly. "To rest." They landed inside the station, finding long halls filled with cables, blinking lights, and machines still humming with stolen thoughts. The place smelled like metal and silence. In the center was a large black pillar, wires crawling from it like vines. The core, the machine. That had been whispering into people's minds for decades. "This is it," Nova said. Sari stepped closer. She could feel it, all the voices, all the trapped thoughts, all the pain. Then she heard something deeper. A voice she thought she'd never hear again. Her mother, recorded in the core's memory. "If you're hearing this, it means you survived," the voice said. "You are more than they told you. You are choice. You are hope. You are free." Sari closed her eyes. For years they tried to shape her, to use her. Now she would shape the galaxy instead. She placed both hands on the core. A surge of light shot through the room. Eli shielded his eyes. Nova stepped back. The core glowed, twisted, and began to shake, but then silence, not from failure, but from peace. The lights dimmed. The noise stopped. All across the galaxy, minds once controlled began to awaken. In distant cities, people looked around, confused, in prisons. The forgotten cried for the first time in years. In battlefields, soldiers dropped their weapons. They all felt the same strange breeze, like something heavy had just lifted from their hearts. Back at the core, Sari collapsed to her knees. Eli rushed to catch her. She looked up, smiling weakly. "It's done," she whispered. Nova scanned the systems. "No more signals," she confirmed. "It's really over." They returned to the freighter, quiet and changed. The girl who was once hunted was now the hero of a galaxy. But she didn't feel powerful. She just felt Free. Eli handed her a worn jacket. Time to stop running, he said. Sari nodded. And start living. Nova patched the ship, setting course to nowhere in particular. For once, they didn't need a mission. They had already won the biggest one of all. As they floated through space, stars blinking outside the window, Sari looked out and whispered, "Do you think people will remember?" Eli smiled. "They'll remember what you gave them," he said. "But more than that, they'll remember that you didn't use your power to control. You used it to let go, and that's how the galaxy was changed. Not by a soldier, not by a weapon, but by a girl who had once cried in a crowd, and by a human who stopped and said, 'Are you okay?'"